Hi everybody, this is Richard with the SFU Satellite Design Team. In this video, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of how we structure our software when we're developing for the OBC. So you'll notice in the OBC repo, no matter what branch you've got checked out, there's going to be an SFUSat folder. So this is all of the custom code that we create. Goes inside the SFUSat directory, and most of the things have an SFU underscore to them. So when you're developing a new feature, as long as it is not a modification to something that already exists, so for example, I could modify rtc.c and h. I would not go create a new C file or a new header file to do this. But if I was developing new functionality from scratch, I would make a new C file and a new header file. Typically, you are also going to need an init function, so feel free to create those and do the standard C practice of declaring your variables and functions in your header and having your definitions broken out into your C file so that everything is very clean and it's easy to see all of our functions from the header file. Now onto the entry point for your code. So everything starts up in sysmain.c, and this is in the source folder. This is one of the only files in the source folder that we really want to touch. But no matter which files you're changing in the source folder, be sure that you are making your changes between the user code begin and end sections. This will ensure that when we regenerate the driver code, such as gio.c, mibspy.c, and all the others, most of the other ones in here, that Halcogen will not overwrite your changes if they're between user code comment blocks. So we'll go find a blank one. Well, yeah. So if you're in the source folder, write your code between the user code blocks. If you're in the SFUSat folder, you don't need to worry about it. The other thing is the include folder. So these are all the headers that Halcogen creates. It's good to know that they are in the include folder. So these are also generated automatically. We would have there'd be very few cases where we would need to modify these, but we frequently need to consult them. The last thing I'll go over is hardware defs. So hardware definitions allow us to easily switch the hardware connections that our software is referring to. So for example, it is totally conceivable that during testing we may connect some sensor or something to a specific port or pin on the chip. However, it is also extremely likely that we'll end up changing this. The first step in changing how this hardware is mapped is to reconfigure the hardware in Halcogen so that it is correctly initializing, for example, SPI port 4. However, in the actual RTC code as an example, we need to make sure that we are referring to RTC underscore SPI register config such and such, and defining the actual hardware in SFU hardware defs, which is in the SFUSat folder. This means if we decide to switch to SPI port 3, for example, we just change the definitions in hardware defs and the RTC code will be good to go again while utilizing that new hardware. This also allows us to maintain different settings for different boards. So for prototype A, we have all of the defines at the top. And then for the launchpad, we have a different set of defines. And these are enabled by, so I'm going into my project properties, switching your configuration to launchpad. If you do that, you will see these become not grayed out, and the ones at the top do become grayed out. So this allows us to manage having different configurations with different hardware settings and different processors. So if you are referencing hardware, whether it is a pin, an SPI port, anything else like that, you need to make sure to break out the definition for that specific hardware into SFU hardware defs. And then therefore you need to include SFU hardware defs in your files if you're writing code that deals with new hardware. So that's the intro to developing and sort of the architecture of how we write software at SFUSat. Thanks for watching, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with any questions you have as you're developing. Thanks for watching.